tutorial, we're going to look at a way in which we can store a list of data. It's using something called an array. So far, the only way we've been able to store data in our programs is via a variable or a constant. But in both cases, that's only one data item. Yes, we can overwrite the item stored in an array and change the contents of that array as many times as we want during program execution, but it's still, at any one point in time, only capable of storing one data item. The solution to storing a list of data is to use an array. So first of all, we need to declare the array. Now, it's very similar to declaring a variable. Dim, and then that's identifier. Let's say I'm going to call this one numbers. As, and let's say they're going to be integers. Now at this point, numbers is nothing more than a variable. To turn it into an array, what we do is put opening and closing parentheses after the identifier numbers. And then in the parentheses, we put an integer value. Let's say 4. So this is only a small list. 4 here is known as the upper bound of this array. Now the upper bound is a value, an integer value, that's always 1 less than the total number of items that can be stored in this array. Why 1 less? Well, in computer science, we generally start counting from 0 rather than 1. So if we count the items 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, we've actually got 5 items. To populate this array, we could manually add each item to each element in the array by going something like this. Numbers 0 equals, let's say 5. And then numbers 1, the next index or slot in the array, equals 3, and so on. But imagine you had a really big array. So instead of doing that, we're going to combine what we know about arrays with what we know about count-controlled loops. Now, count-controlled loops work really, really well for processing data in arrays. Because we know that the starting index of every single array is 0, and because we know that there will be an upper bound of some sort, in this case 4, we can then set a loop to run X number of times. So there's a way we do that using the ubound keyword, which is just short for upper bound. We go like this. Well, I is integer equals 0, because that's the first index or slot in this array, to whatever the upper bound is of this array. Maybe I had a situation where I didn't know what the upper bound was because I had changed it. More on that later. Then we put in parentheses the name of the array. Now I can say numbers and take the loop counter. So the first time through this loop, I will be 0, equating to index 0 of the array. The second time through the loop, I will be 1, which equates to index 1 of the array. So it's kind of serving two purposes in this example. And that's assigned, let's say, -1. What I'm doing here in this 3-line for loop is initializing my array. I'm saying before I do anything else in my program, I'm going to ensure that every single value in my array contains the same data. Could be 0, could be -1, could be an empty string. It depends what it is you're trying to do.